Using a 45-degree elbow, run the discharge lines to the wall and turn up with another 45. At the rim joist, you'll need to drill holes to get the pipes outside. Start by using a pilot drill from the inside. Once the hole is through, you can see if it's in a bad spot outside, and if you need to, you could caulk the hole and move it since it's just a little hole. Then from the outside, you could use a 2-inch hole saw and drill a hole inward. This way, you get a nice clean cut through the siding and don't hit any pipes or wires inside. If you needed to drill through the foundation, block, poured, or even a stone foundation, you do it the same way using a 1/2-inch pilot hole and a 2-inch concrete hole saw. Run your discharge line through the hole and glue up the pipes inside. Then cut the pipes off outside 1.5 inches through the siding. Then caulk around the pipes so that they are water and airtight, and slide on the provided pipe collars. Next, glue on street 90-degree elbows. A street 90 has a male on one end and a female on the other, instead of female on both ends. Next, glue the ice guard fittings on. Next, run the discharge pipe, using Schedule 20, or sewer and drain pipe as it's called, in a shallow pipe underground to a lawnscape outlet. Remember that the discharge line should be level or downhill, and far enough away from the house where the water will flow away from the house when it comes out of the discharge line. Depending on the slope of the property, that could be 5 feet or 65 feet or more. Most commonly, 15 feet will do. Sometimes the homeowner will have their downspouts extended away from the house in pipes buried underground. Never tie your discharge line into a downspout pipe like this. The reason is that lots of debris goes down the pipe from the roof, and it will clog the pipe over time, and when it does, your discharge line is clogged too, and it'll back up right against the foundation and cause a problem. Also, you really don't know where a pipe that others put in goes to. At worst, it ties into the exterior footing drains, which are perforated pipe. If you put your discharge line water in there, you're only pumping your discharge line water back into the soil around the foundation and causing recirculation. In fact, if someone has a pump that pumps all the time, or the pump won't keep up in a heavy rain, it could be that the water is just recirculating and you're pumping the same water over and over again because it's not getting away from the house. We've put dye tablets down downspouts before, only to find the dye show up in the sump hole, sometimes immediately and sometimes 20 minutes later, depending on how much water there was that day. So you take these dye tablets and you drop 3 or 4 of them down each downspout and see if it shows up in the sump. You can pre-dissolve these in an empty soda bottle and get a real concentrated liquid of dye, and then dump that down with a few tablets to make the dye show up faster so you don't have to wait for it to dissolve. Once we pull all the downspouts and discharge lines out of these pipes that others put in and run them to the surface with lawnscape outlets and rain chutes, the pumps slowed or stopped right away, and then they could keep up in a heavy rain. You also don't want to run your discharge line into a dry well. Dry wells are holes, pits, or tanks in the ground with holes in them so water can soak into the soil. The water that goes into the soil will likely end up in the basement again, and dry wells can only hold a certain amount of water until they overflow. Running a discharge line out onto the surface is your best bet. If it's a tough property to find a proper place for the discharge line, remember it's not your problem, it's the homeowner's problem. But you make it your problem if you choose a spot that won't work. Instead, get the customer involved. Let's say there was a home with a paved driveway on one side, a sidewalk in front, a neighbor 8 feet away on the other side, and a patio and a small section of grass in the back. Walk the homeowner around and tell them, in order to fix your basement, we have to find a place to pump the water to. There may not be a great place to do that here, but let's walk around the house together and pick the best place from the choices we have. As you walk around, you explain that we can't pump out onto the driveway or sidewalk because the water will freeze. And we don't want to have a problem with the neighbor, so that leaves the back. We don't want to wet the patio, so that leaves this small lawn area which pitches slightly to the rear. I think it would be the best place. Do you agree? When they say yes, you explain that the location can be changed for an extra charge later if this spot doesn't work out, but it's usually not a big deal. There are several ways to secure the discharge line inside. J-hooks are commonly used to hang a discharge line under floor joist. There is also pipe strapping available, and other brackets can be used to secure it to a wall. However, usually there is no fastening to a wall at all from the sump to the ceiling. To finish our sump installation, we need to mount the ultrasump charger on the wall by drilling 1/4-inch holes through the flange of the charger and using a nail and fastener or concrete screws to the wall. You can mount the charger to the discharge line with the brackets provided. The upper bracket has a hose clamp to hold the weight, and the lower one uses a wire tie to keep it straight. However, the pipe is not as sturdy as the wall, so it's preferable to remove the bracket on the back of the charger and hang the charger directly on the wall with fasteners. Next, set the battery in place on the floor. Hook up the cables from the pump securely. The cord captain gets secured to the discharge pipe with a hose clamp, and the extra cord from the pumps get wound around it. Be sure not to plug the M98 pump in, and leave it unplugged and the cord across the floor so it's obvious to the homeowner that the electrical is not done. The service log envelope is attached to the cord captain and positioned so it hides the wound up cable. All the labels taken out of the service log envelope and mounted as previously discussed with the correct dates and phone numbers written in with a magic marker. The condensation indicator strip is stuck to the discharge pipe a few inches above the sump lid. Concreting around the sump and the water guard system is the last thing you do before peeling the protective plastic off the sump lids, which are there, of course, to keep them clean and looking good. Now you know how to install a triple safe, and the steps for installing a super sump, or a super sump with an ultra sump, or a smart sump are the same, but with less equipment, of course. There's a lot to know to handle all pump situations and installations, but it's a vital part of any basement or crawl space repair strategy, and a lot is at stake if there's a failure. We know this video will help you get the results that you and your customers are looking for. Good luck.